Lately, I've been doing a lot more projects in this beautiful leather journal. It took me a minute to figure out how to approach painting in here, but now that I've got the process down, I really want to do a lot more within these pages. But since I've been spending more time here, I've realized that the outside of this book is honestly a bit bland, and I've been thinking about how I might change that. And that line of thinking led me almost immediately to an incredibly easy method of decoration: wood-burned leather. So I thought, why not make a quick video and sort of walk you through my process while I give this journal a little bit more flavor. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. Now before we get into the more nitty-gritty details, I think a good part of the process to start with is some kind of fancy filigree border to sort of lock everything in place. And while it definitely does that, it also has the added benefit of being a sort of practice round for me, as I've never actually wood-burned any leather before, at least nothing substantial that I can remember. But I've seen it used in a lot of different places to pretty lovely effect, and after getting a feel for the stylus, burner, whatever you want to call it, I realized that if you just keep things moving and exercise some caution, it ends up looking almost like you just drew it on with a pen, albeit a bit more classy. Granted, I don't think anything would be nearly as clean if I didn't trace it all out in pencil beforehand, but crisp lines have never been a free-handed art, and on this book I am taking absolutely no chances. As far as the more substantial designs go, I have a few different ideas for pieces that I could add that will hopefully end up being cohesive and well executed. This book, as I've mentioned, is a sort of loose lore book for a world building project I'm working on, and I imagine that in world, this book is a collaboration between a ton of different archaeologists, historians, illustrators, zoologists, and so on, working to reverse engineer the history of the setting from scattered first-hand accounts and archaeological evidence. And returning to the cover, this manifests in designs that reflect beauty, loyalty, and professionalism. Of course, we'll start off with a few lines of our decorative writing system, because why not? I imagine this to be the title of the manuscript, but I haven't quite figured out what I want that to be yet, so for now, just more gibberish. For a more substantial piece of the cover, a seal of some kind is always a good idea, so let's do one of those. I've been putting a lot of these heron seals in various pages of the book, so I figured it must be important enough to end up on the cover, too. I'm leaning towards it being an insignia for the people researching our archipelago setting, as it's kind of prestige government work and would be a good fit for some sort of seal. A good parallel in the real world would probably be NASA, a group of elite thinkers brought together to study something the general public knows almost nothing about. That being said, I think the logo depicting one of the archipelago's most striking animals is overall a pretty solid pick. Once we're done with that, we can get to work on filling out the other side of the cover. We've made some pretty solid progress so far, but since it's looking a little empty over here, I wanted to find something new to put in this area so we don't just have a giant block of text on the front. There's a very limited pool of existing design principles to work off of, but from that, I found this sort of compass-looking thing that I drew on the map of the setting. I'm not sure exactly what it is or what I want it to be. I don't think it's actually any sort of navigation tool, although it has the sort of classic compass look. But for now, I don't really need to answer that question. Here, it's just detail for detail's sake, and doesn't really need to be anything more than that. And overall, I think it was a great addition, really fills out the cover and does a solid job of adding some more much-needed texture. But with that, we're just about done with the front of the book, which is really the bulk of the work. For the back, I wanted to do one central design, something that really pops and stands out on its own. I mentioned loyalty earlier, but I didn't really elaborate on that. I've loosely imagined that the people responsible for putting this book together are mostly funded by some kind of royal family, and by loyalty, I mean loyalty to the crown. To reflect that, I've decided to go with a more detailed version of the royal signet, which you can see at the top of the compass thing that we etched in earlier. And with that, I think we're just about done. I'm really happy with how this little side project turned out, but there's definitely a lot more I could do with this. I haven't even gotten into any leather stain yet, and I'm sure that would really spice up our cover. But let me know in the comments what you think I should do next. If you like this video, please consider subscribing. It really helps this channel out. And until next time, have a lovely Sunday.